Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about inspiration, particularly how do you get inspired when you don't have any new ideas, particularly if you're doing the sort of thing that I do, which is you go out and film as much as possible, you go out and make as much stuff as humanly possible, and so you're constantly drawing from your own well of inspiration. Sometimes you get towards the bottom of that well of inspiration. What do you do? How do you scrape the bottom of the barrel? Because at the bottom of the barrel can be some really nice stuff. Obviously, the phrase scraping the bottom of the barrel kind of gives you the impression of like, oh, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel of that one. Have they not got any new ideas? Well, no, don't, but that can also be useful in its own way. It can also have its own little set of intrigue to it, because when you work within limitations, you tend to come out with some really good stuff. If you set a challenge for yourself and you work within that challenge, you can do a lot better compared to if you had complete creative control to do absolutely anything you want. Because if you have that, that means you kind of just do everything, and it just kind of, you throw the entire kitchen sink at it because you've got the entire kitchen sink. Maybe you don't need the entire kitchen sink. Maybe you just need to turn the hot water on a little bit, okay? You don't need to have a million different ideas to begin creating. Even just like the little ideas that you come up with. Like for instance, a few years ago, me and my mate, we used to film these little short films. We'd go up north and we'd be filming a feature film, but in between we would film these little like quite fun shorts, and we would just do them in a day or a couple hours sort of thing. They never like, you know, took over the entire day. They were never about, you know, that kind of thing of like putting loads and loads and loads and loads of time into one particular project. They were more about just exploring the realms of creativity. We did a couple horror ones, we did like a couple sort of pseudo documentary sort of ones, and it was a lot of fun. And I remember one in particular. It's called 1111. I'll try and remember to put a link to it in the description below. Basically, we didn't have any ideas on what we were going to do, so we were sat in the car and we were trying to sort of spitball ideas back and forth to one another. And this was sort of, I want to say this was like October 2021, something like that. This was right at the beginning, the genesis of ChatGPT and just like AI in general. And so what we did, we went on and Googled AI movie ideas, and we just let it generate a few movie ideas, and it generated a load of them. We kind of looked through them, we're like, no, 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 no. And then we kind of saw one that was, it was about a vortex, and we kind of thought, oh, vortexes are kind of interesting. And we had a bit of a conversation about, you know, the nature of the singularity, and like, I talked to him about black holes and how if you go into a black hole, you get the spaghettification sort of effect that comes over you. And then from there, you kind of get sucked into the singularity, and we don't necessarily know what the singularity was. And so right there is a little bit of horror in the unknown. So we kind of made this little short film where the main character is kind of just wandering around a graveyard, and he picks up this object that was just, it was a prop that my friend had for a while and he'd been wanting to use in a film for a while. And so we worked out a way that had some kind of horror kind of elements to it. We weren't trying to set out to make the world's greatest horror film by any stretch of the imagination. We were just enjoying ourselves making stuff. And that's, I think, the way that you should create. You should just create first, ask questions later, because you don't necessarily need all the ideas in the world. That actually was one of my favorite of the films that we did, and it was the one that we did when we had absolutely no idea. I remember we did another horror film where there was loads of ideas that kind of went into it, and that one is certainly good as well, but I kind of prefer the one that we did where we didn't have any ideas and we were working with just creating stuff on the fly, off the cusp. Just literally, we were sat there on the internet just Googling various ideas, trying to figure out something that worked. And when we found something that worked, we just did it. And you know, you might say that that's just sort of a lack of creativity or a lack of inspiration, but I don't necessarily think that you need those things in order to create good works of art. I mean, look at something like Friends, for instance, the sitcom Friends. There's loads of episodes of that where you imagine the writer's run wasn't particularly inspired. You know, you're on series 9 of a you know, daytime TV show, primetime TV show. You're gonna run out of ideas. You've already done Ross and Rachel. You've already had all the characters hook up in every sort of combination you can think of. You brought in new characters, brought in guest stars. You've done every plot that you kind of thought up when you came up with the idea of Friends. It's all been done. So what do you do next? Well, you just start thinking of stuff, and you just start trying to come up with something, anything that could work. And that's when you come up with some of your best ideas. And there's some really good episodes in Series 9 and Series 10 of Friends. There's some really good episodes of The Simpsons in like Series 10, 20, 30. There's good episodes in Series 36 of The Simpsons. Do you think they were as inspired in Series 36 as they were in Series 1? No, of course they weren't. But at the same time, you don't need the inspiration to get stuff done. If you kind of brute force your way through that writer's block, you will come out as something that you will end up looking back on. You won't be able to tell the difference between the stuff you were inspired to create and the stuff that you weren't inspired to create. You just create and you just make stuff. And then you ask questions after the fact. You think, where did this go wrong? What did we do here that was obviously working? Let's try and do that again. You have various things like that. So in terms of creating stuff when you don't have any ideas, I think the best thing to do is to first ask around, see what's going on, try and take in new information, see what you can do with said information, and then try and apply it to your own self and your own creative vision and that kind of thing. Because I'm presuming by this point you have found your own voice and that sort of thing. You know generally what you want to say, what your overall message with regards to your creative works is, and your overall worldview, that kind of thing. If you haven't figured that sort of thing out, there's other videos out there on the internet. If you just Google like finding your voice or something, you'll find loads of videos of people trying to help you find your own voice. But once you have found your own voice, it's very easy to just bring on new ideas and just try and think of stuff. Like right now, I don't really have many great ideas, but why should that stop me from creating necessarily? Because scraping the bottom of the barrel can be quite fun. You know, like I like the butt end of bread, the loaf of bread. I like the butt end. I like, or for instance, I don't know. You get to the bottom of a can of Coke, and you've got that little like sort of thing there, and you kind of get a couple sips out of it, and it's really nice. You know, that little final part. Like, I mean, the way that I can't remember what it is. Is it Guinness? Is made by just scraping the bottom of oil barrels or something like that, or beer is made like that. I can't quite remember how it works, but the bottom of that barrel creates some good stuff. And that's generally what I want to convey with this video, is that don't necessarily worry that you've run out of ideas, because even if you have run out of ideas, which you haven't, by the way, you're just not feeling particularly great today, that doesn't mean that you can't create something, anything, and then look back on it and go, bloody hell, I'm glad I did that. You'll never regret making something. You'll never regret creating a piece of work. You'll never regret trying stuff. So why should you not? Why should you get yourself down over that and sort of think, well, I have nothing to say, I have nothing to create, I have no voice? Because that's just not true. You just don't know what it is yet. And once you make it, you'll look back and you'll feel like, oh wow, that was a lot more cohesive than I actually originally intended. Not bad, decent going there. So go out there, create stuff. Just make sure that you're putting your all into it, even if you don't have any ideas left necessarily. Because a lot of making film, a lot of making music, a lot of books, it's not necessarily just the creative process, it's the actual, you need to do the work of making the thing. If you want to write a book, you need to type. If you want to make a film, you need to get out into locations, find the crew, find the equipment, film them doing the stuff. If you want to make music, you need to, go into the MIDI and find all the drum loops and then go through and do that, or you need to figure out recording setup, or you need to write the songs. And you necessarily always need to have everything worked out, because if you did, what would the journey of making stuff be? It would just be, imagine Orson Welles making Citizen Kane, right? Does he just sort of have the idea, right, I'm going to make Citizen Kane, and then he just went out and made it? No, there were probably loads of times when he was making Citizen Kane where he felt uninspired, or like he wasn't making anything worthwhile, or like he didn't have any good ideas left. Or maybe after he made Citizen Kane, he was like, oh God, what am I going to do next? And then the film he made after that was, I can't remember what the film he did after that. I think it was one where the studio interfered a lot, and it was a film that had the potential to be as good as Citizen Kane, but it wasn't because of the studio interference, something like that. I can't quite remember. But I'm sure when he was making that film, he felt like, oh God, I've made the best thing I've ever made. I can't make anything as good as that. I've not got any real good ideas left. You don't need to make the best thing be your newest thing. You don't need to top yourself every single time. And not everything needs to be your greatest work of art. Sometimes it's fine to just make stuff for the sake of making stuff. Sometimes it's good to just keep the practice going. And why not? Why not make stuff? It's fun, it's nice, it's satisfying, and it's entertaining, not just to watch and from the audience's point of view, but to make from the creator's point of view. So why should you let something as stupid as not having enough good ideas let you get in the way of making things? Because you'll come up with something. I'm sure you'll come up with something. Even if it's not your most inspired work, why should that let it get in the way? So that's essentially my message, is even if you're looking at yourself right now feeling like you're not inspired, maybe you're feeling a bit down, maybe you're a bit depressed or whatever, or maybe you're a bit anxious of like, well, how are people going to respond to my thing? Is it like, because it's not good enough, etc., etc. Don't let any of that stuff get in the way. Even if you're going to set out and make a load of crap, obviously you didn't set up to make a load of crap, but you ended up making a load of crap. Why is that a problem? I don't necessarily have the answer to that, because I don't think it is a problem. Frankly, I just don't. I don't really see why anything like that should be something that lets you get in the should get in your way. Nothing like that should get in your way ever, because you're fucking brilliant. You can get out there and you're way more powerful than you could possibly imagine. So just get out there, create the stuff, and then ask questions later, and just see where it takes you. See where the inspiration of the desperation from a lack of inspiration will take you. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. Take care, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And leave your comments below, because I bet there's been something that you've made where you made it out of desperation, or maybe to fill a quota, maybe if you're like a YouTuber and you need to get a video out for that week or whatever. But you know, you knew it wasn't going to be your best video, but why should that let it stop you? Because what might be considered your worst video to you might be your best video to someone else. And that's fine, that's cool, because it's all subjective really at the end of the day. So yeah, take care everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Oh, this thing that I'm sitting on, it's at a real angle. Hurts a little bit actually.